Hey, VA borrowers, my name is Steve Doherty. I'm the Raleigh VA loan guy. I'm a loan officer here in Raleigh, North Carolina, and United States Marine Corps veteran. So you may be considering looking at new construction. That is the majority of the inventory we have nowadays, right? Maybe you're already under contract on new construction. So today I want to talk to you about how new construction varies a little bit from buying existing construction, and also some things to watch out for when dealing with a builder's preferred or associated lender. So first, let's talk about some of the different costs associated with buying new construction. They're not that significant, but they're worth noting. In North Carolina, by custom, if you buy existing construction, transfer taxes will be paid by the seller. What are transfer taxes? Those are taxes charged by the county, and it's generally speaking $2 for every $1,000 of value. Again, by custom in North Carolina, the seller of existing construction pays for this tax. Again, it's not a lot of money, but the seller will pay for it. With new construction, by custom, buyers pay that. So that will be an additional fee that you will pay that you would have not have purchased with existing construction. The next fee to be aware of is a final appraisal inspection fee. So if you get under contract and the home is not complete, we will send the appraiser to the house twice. Generally speaking, the first time they will go out is once drywall is in. So maybe the home is 85% complete, right? And at that time, they do an assessment of the materials that are being used. They do square footage measurements. And then we have to send the appraiser out again when the home is actually complete. The appraiser will confirm that the home has actually been constructed to the standards of the contract. That extra trip out to the property will cost an extra $150 to $200, but it is something that you will pay for. That, generally speaking, is not a problem on existing construction. Another fee to be aware of on new construction is an HOA capitalization fee, or an upfront HOA fee. So in HOAs, you generally speaking pay monthly HOA dues. But when a new neighborhood is being started, the builders will often charge you an upfront fee to sort of capitalize the HOA to get it going. This can range anywhere from $100 to $3,000. Just be aware that that may be in the cards. Now, builders are generally speaking very good about disclosing this when you sit down to talk with them, but when you're in the initial planning process, just keep in mind that this may be an additional fee that you will be expected to pay. The final difference in terms of costs with new construction and existing construction is taxes. So if you escrow your taxes, meaning you allow the mortgage bank to control collection of the taxes and payment of the taxes, you may get a better interest rate. Sometimes it help you cross that 8th threshold to get an interest rate down from 6.125% to 6%. It's also nice because it takes that headache away from you having to worry about paying your tax bill on time. So how do we know how much taxes to collect on existing construction? It's pretty easy. The county publishes the tax bills for all residential properties. We simply look at that tax bill and we use that as a baseline to determine how much we're going to collect from you every month going forward. If the annual tax bill is $1,200, you will pay $100 a month into that escrow account so that when that tax bill is payable, the bank has $1,200 in the escrow account to pay it. Well, on new construction, unoccupied homes that are owned by builders, are taxed differently than homes that are owned by homeowners, right? To encourage the building of new construction, we don't want to tax builders at the same rate that we would tax a homeowner. The other thing is maybe the home wasn't complete when the annual tax bills are published, which are published in July. So if in July the home is literally just footings, it's obviously not worth as much then as it ultimately will be when you complete the purchase. Let's say you're buying a $500,000 home. No one would want to pay taxes on a $500,000 home if it's only worth $100,000 at the time that snapshot exists of the tax bill. So we don't really have an accurate tax bill yet because there hasn't been a tax assessment done of the completed home as owned by a homeowner. So how do we know how much to collect from you? The standard practice is to take the tax rate in your county and apply it to the purchase price. Now, the reason this isn't precise is because almost always the purchase price is going to be much higher than the eventual tax assessed value, right? So if you're buying a home for $500,000, that might be the purchase price, that might be the appraised value, but ultimately the tax assessed value should be significantly less than that. So eventually that tax rate will be applied to maybe not much smaller, but a significantly smaller value than whatever you paid for it. So you may say, well, that's not fair. I don't want to overpay for the taxes. You won't overpay for the taxes, but taxes will be over collected from you. This may sound like kind of clever language, but it's accurate. That's exactly what's going to happen. The first few payments while you're living in the home, we will be collecting taxes by applying the tax rate to the purchase price. Once the tax bill is published, that will get adjusted. If we've collected too much, which we almost certainly will, that money is not the mortgage banks to keep, or it's not the county getting a windfall at a higher price. It's all kept in this escrow account and it will come back to you. But you should be mindful that because we don't have a tax bill yet, you'll pay a little bit more at closing and a little bit more every single month. So those are some of the differences in terms of cost of new construction versus existing construction. Now I want to talk a little bit about dealing with the builder's preferred lender or the builder's associated lender. So first we'll talk about the preferred lender. A preferred lender just means that a builder has an existing relationship with a mortgage bank. It's usually a local bank or a local branch, and they just sort of feed clients to this bank. Some advantages to this could be that the builder has a certain trust factor with that preferred lender, and they prefer that you get pre-approved from someone that they deem is reputable, someone that will do their due diligence, someone who will get you pre-approved if you're pre-approved, but won't just rubber stamp your application. Some tricks that I hear in my line of work that preferred lenders do is the preferred lender will say that they are new construction experts, that they truly understand new construction financing. The truth of the matter is, from a mortgage lending perspective, new construction is 97% identical to existing construction. And it's not so complex that a mortgage lender who does primarily existing construction can't execute new construction with absolute expertise. Another thing that I've seen in my experience is a preferred lender saying, we truly understand new construction. We understand the costs associated with it. Again, getting back to a previous comment about how you may pay that HOA capitalization fee. I've seen a tactic where those capitalization fees are withheld. The preferred lender reaches out and says, we understand this. Maybe the other bank hasn't disclosed those fees to you yet. It's because they don't really know what's going on. In reality, the builder just hasn't shared that information with anyone. They've only shared it with the preferred lender. Now, the bigger player in new construction space is the associated lender. So what does that mean if a lender, a mortgage bank, is associated with the builder? What that means is at some level, they share a common ownership company, right? They're owned ultimately by the same company. Maybe the builder owns the bank. Most likely, there's a third company that owns both. This is a much different situation. This isn't just a casual relationship between a mortgage bank and a builder. This means that there's a more sort of direct synthesis, right? They are connected. And this is where you will get into the realm of big credits being offered by the seller, by the builder, to use their associated lender. Some things to be careful of. These credits can be mouthwatering, right? $10,000, $15,000. That's enough money to completely offset your closing costs, prepaids, and escrows. But be careful. The associated builders may be very aggressive in encouraging you to take all that money, which is a lot of money, and use it towards points. Use it towards getting the interest rate as low as possible. Now, you may say, that sounds great to me. I want a very low mortgage payment. But let's say they're offering you $10,000 and they're going to buy the interest rate down by 0.5%. They don't have to tell you how much it actually costs to buy that rate down. So if they're going to take that $10,000 that they've promised you and put it entirely towards points, maybe it only costs them $5,000 to reduce the interest rate. Where does the other $5,000 go? They pocket it. The best strategy is to first use the credit to offset all of your costs, closing costs, prepaids, escrows, all the things that we've been talking about. And on a VA loan, you can even use any excess credit to pay off debt. So that way you can keep the builder, you can kind of hold their feet to the fire, keep them honest, and make sure you are utilizing as much of that credit as possible. Then if there's anything left over, you can apply any excess to getting the interest rate down. That's the best strategy to apply when negotiating with the builder's associated lender. Regardless of whether you are interacting with a preferred lender or an associated lender, here are a couple other things to keep in mind. If you are purchasing a home that won't be complete for a significant period of time, let's say anything more than 6 months, 6 to 14 months is the time of completion of construction, understand that the interest rate they are quoting you is probably based on a 30-day lock. Right now, that's pretty standard in the industry. When people ask, hey, what's your interest rate on this product? 20% down, 90% of mortgage lenders are going to be quoting a 30-day lock. And that's reasonable because the average closing period is 30 days. Now, for you, that closing period may be 6 to 14 months. So when the bank is quoting you an interest rate, they're probably giving you a 30-day lock. But then they're not going to be locking you right then and there because that 30 days obviously won't take you to the finish line. It won't take you through that construction process. So a tactic that I see is that lenders will quote an artificially low rate on that 30-day lock, a rate that they really couldn't offer you at that period of time. But so much time is going to go by until they actually lock the interest rate for you. They're never really going to be held to the task of honoring that rate, right? A lot can change in 6 to 14 months, especially interest rate wise. So be careful when they're offering you this interest rate and you're shopping around between different banks. You want to ask them, okay, what is the period of time that interest rate is based on? Is that a 30-day lock, a 45-day lock, a 60-day lock? Now, ultimately, you probably won't lock an interest rate until you approach the closing period. A couple of years ago, several banks would offer extended lock periods, right? 90, 120 days, 6 months, 1 year. But you probably wouldn't want to do that right now as we're in a relatively higher interest rate environment. And a lot of banks just simply aren't offering lock periods that are that long. So what do? Probably the best thing to do is to wait to choose a horse if you're shopping around when you get closer to locking. That way, let's say you're 45 days out from locking an interest rate. At that point, you could ask several lenders, what's the best interest rate you can give me on a 45-day lock? Because at that point, they'll have to kind of show you their cards. They'll have to tell you what they're offering because you might turn around and say, great, let's go ahead and do that lock. Another thing to be mindful of when locking an interest rate on new construction is that new construction is frequently not on time. If you're supposed to close in 6 months, sometimes that ends up being 7, 8, or even 9 months. That was a huge problem during COVID, admittedly due to some supply chain problems. But still, if you check the contract that you have with the builder probably won't be liable for anything if they are late. If you're late, that's a different story. But so let's say you are 45 days from closing, or let's say you're 60 days from closing, you decide to do a 60-day lock. When the closing approaches and the builder says, oh, I'm really sorry, we're actually going to be 4 weeks late, there will be a cost to you to extend that lock, right? And it can be pretty expensive depending on the loan amount and depending on how long you need to extend that lock. Most builders will not pay that fee for you. They will expect you to absorb it. So be careful about locking. If you're 60 days out, you want to get assurances from the builder that they're actually going to be done within 60 days. Generally speaking, I don't lock on new construction or a short lock period, let's say 15 to 45 days, until we know for a fact that the builder is going to close on time. If you're doing an extended lock, something over 45 days, I recommend building in a buffer period to that lock. So if the builder is saying, yeah, we should be done in 60 days, I might do a 90-day lock to give myself a little bit of wiggle room. The final thing to be wary of when dealing with a builder in terms of negotiating with the preferred or affiliated lender is some new construction contracts will provide language that means if you want to preserve your option to use a bank other than the preferred or affiliated bank, you must get a commitment letter from that other bank within a certain period of time of getting under contract. I've seen this period as short as 14 days, meaning as soon as your contract is executed, and that could be a preliminary contract that does not even include all the upgrades. That means the other bank out there only has 2 weeks to get you through underwriting, not all the way through, but to get you an initial approval, and that bank sent a commitment letter to the builder that says that they will be able to perform that loan. Usually it's a little bit more than that. Maybe it's 30 days. But let's say at the end of 30 days, your other lender hasn't delivered that commitment letter or you haven't bothered shopping yet. You may waive your ability to use a different mortgage bank. So be very careful of that. If you do plan on shopping around and using a lender other than the preferred or associated lender, you may need to get to work up front, even though you're not going to actually pick a bank. So, choose a horse, so to speak, until later in the process. So this video really isn't meant to discourage anyone from new construction. New construction is a great option. You get a new house, you can get something that you want. You have more say as to what goes into the house, or maybe even a lot of customization. And in our market, that's kind of the big supply in town, right? That is a big percentage of our market. Available homes are coming from new construction. But you want to be smart as to how you approach that process. You want to be disciplined when negotiating with a preferred or associated lender, and you want to be aware that the costs aren't exactly the same as to buying existing construction. Again, my name is Steve Doherty. I'm the Raleigh VA loan guy. I'm a loan officer here in Raleigh, North Carolina. I'm a United States Marine Corps veteran. If you have any questions about new construction or how to interpret an offer that you've been made by an associated or preferred lender, please reach out to me, give me a call, shoot me a text message, send me an email, leave a comment below. I'd be more than happy to answer your questions.